In 2024, Chris Sale and Tarek Skubal won 18 games apiece, totals which led all of Major League Baseball. Since 2009, pitchers have won 20 or more games in a single season just 26 times, and only 3 racked up a season-high 8 complete games in one campaign. What's so special about the year 2009? That was the last season in which a hurler was credited with career victory number 300. Randy Johnson, as a member of the San Francisco Giants, became just the 24th to achieve the feat after defeating the Nationals on June 4. The mark has been reached only 5 times in the last 37 years. There's plenty of documentation available regarding the safety of all-time numbers set by Pete and Nolan and Ricky. This episode will look a bit closer into the exclusive 300-win fraternity, and why that mark has become more of a fantasy for athletes and fans alike. Prior to Cy Young achieving his 300th victory, 6 others were already in the club, having reached the milestone between the years 1888 and 1900. Pud Galvin, the first guy to do it, was extremely durable in his 15-year career. Controversy still swirls around his method of staying fit and ahead of hitters for so long, but the 360-plus wins he recorded was the most from anyone during the 19th century. In 1880, Tim Keefe was credited with 105 innings pitched. His ERA for the season was a minuscule 0.86. Working 400 innings 5 years later, his ERA ballooned to 1.58. Mickey Welch, whose Major League run began in 1880, completed his first 105 Major League starts. Look at these incredible career numbers. Hoss Radbourn holds the record for most wins in a single season, 60 in 1884. That year he also racked up 73 complete games and 441 strikeouts with a 1.38 ERA. Think that victory number was a fluke? He put up 49 wins the following season. Not to be outdone in 1885, John Clarkson put up 53 wins, the second highest total ever and the record for one season in the National League. During his career, he led the league in strikeouts 4 times, wins 3 times, and innings pitched 3 years in a row. Kid Nichols posted 297 wins in the decade of the 1890s. He was just 30 years of age when he captured his 300th, the youngest ever to do so. Along with Cy, the first group of all-time winners averaged 15 seasons, 636 games, 5,300 innings pitched, and 360 victories in their careers. The term fireman had only one definition back then. The last 5 300-game winners, Johnson, Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, Roger Clemens, and Nolan Ryan, averaged 24 seasons in their playing careers. To reach the magic number, mathematicians calculate between 15 and 20 seasons of consistent play are required. Starting pitchers with a career spanning 2 decades seem to be a breed headed for extinction. While the game was evolving in the 19th century, clubs had as few as 2 hurlers on their rosters. Though some seasons were considered complete at just 63 games, it's easy to see how winning 20 to 30 was for pitchers. Notice I didn't call them starters. Back then, there were no team trainers or doctors, and there wasn't a focus on pitch counts. Pitchers competed with less rest between starts and pitched 90% of their team's games in a season. Hitters during this period were at several disadvantages. Only 45 feet separated the mound from the plate, and substances which transformed the ball to move in unorthodox directions were allowed. With 2 to 4-man rotations the norm from the 1890s through the 1970s, starters relished in picking up as many appearances and innings they could. The mindset was, if my job is to pitch in the game, I'm going to pitch it all the way through. Yes, baseball has changed since the 1880s, I get it. But when and how did the psychology of using so many pitchers in the same contest become so drastic? Starters aren't given the ball late in ball games anymore, and this is the main reason why the strategy to win games has fundamentally changed, and why pitchers do not, or are conditioned not to, think about such a prominent milestone as 300. Pitchers have become trained to fulfill different roles for their team, Long gone are the days where starters are left in to complete games, even with a comfortable lead in the 7th inning. Analytics have changed each manager's approach to winning, using several types of specialists on their rosters throughout the season. At times, they don't think twice in pulling a starter prior to their qualifying for a winning decision. But is the mentality truly saving a hurler's arm, or does it put a strain on the rest of his staff? Should pitch counts be considered as significant when crafting a pitcher's complete season? Does not throwing as much in many starts cause arm injuries, thus shortening a career? Today, expansion has diluted rosters, especially pitching staffs. In 2024, some clubs had up to 20 pitchers on their 40-man roster that appeared in at least 10 games during the regular season. During the year, the top 10 pitchers in victories averaged 185 innings pitched for the season and 6 innings pitched per game. Their average record was 16-8 with an ERA of 2.78. Relievers have been putting up record-setting numbers and salaries over the past 2 decades that have made them superstars. Relief pitchers who appeared at the top of the saves list in 2024 averaged 66 innings for the season and 1 inning per game. Their combined won-loss record was 52-42 and were credited with 47 blown saves. The average ERA in the National League has been over 4 every season since 2016. In the American League, except for one season, the average ERA has been the same since 2015. During that stretch, both leagues have used an average of 4.5 pitchers per game. Only 3 active starters have 200 career wins. Their average age is 38.5 and have averaged 17.5 years in the big leagues. Only 17 other active pitchers have at least 100 career victories, with just one, Aaron Nola, being under the age of 32. In fact, the current active pitcher in career wins under the age of 30 is German Marquez, who has 65. After injuries kept John Smoltz out of action for the 2000 campaign, the Hall of Famer spent 4 seasons as a reliever. He posted over 150 saves during this time, and if not for Tommy John's surgery, would have been a strong contender for 300 wins. He finished with 213. I mentioned a Brave star because the franchise was a winner for an extended period of time during Smoltz's career. The individual achievements of their star pitchers had much to do with the franchise having systems in place, but their success was due to a combination of that along with exceptional talent. How much talent is needed for today's players to put forth a lengthy career? There is no financial incentive to stay, with guaranteed contracts and big money deals so highly publicized. At the game's infancy, management scoffed at players who required the assistance of agents to negotiate or settle contract disputes. What factors will be key if any aces are fortunate to accumulate a considerable amount of victories, or is that facet of baseball already in the past? I mentioned the year 2009 earlier. From that season until 2023, 7 pitchers have thrown perfect games. The number of perfectos in the sport's history is 24, the same total as 300 game winners. Could the victory plateau become even more rare? New Jersey resident and author Dan Schlossberg has penned over 25 books on baseball alone. The 300 Club was published in 2010 and details the dedication of each historical pitcher, how the game has changed throughout the decades, and how difficult it has been for pitchers to gain membership to the exclusive fraternity. With further rule changes over the last few years in pitch counts, mound visits, and checking runners at first base, it seems this book will continue to have a very lengthy shelf life.